telescope out there that was the original telescope for MSU. It's a, oh, what's the name of that telescope? All of a sudden the name is Alvin Clark, yes, Alvin Clark, who was a very famous telescope maker in the 1800s. And Alvin Clark telescopes are highly sought after by telescope enthusiasts, and he made some really great telescopes. And at the time, there was really no other telescope that compared to the quality of an Alvin Clark telescope. And so we have that one there. It's probably about a 6-inch telescope. So that's kind of nice to have that on display out there. One of these days I'd love to pull it out of the case and take it outside on a clear night and see what things look like through it, but probably won't happen anytime soon. Then what else do we have? There's some new exhibits that we have that show some history of the moon landing. I guess we're coming up on an anniversary of that. It was 69, so I guess a couple more years and that'll be a big anniversary. And so we have that moon landing exhibit out there. One of the things I like the best is the Blacklight Gallery. The paintings in there are just really cool, and kids just ooh and ah when they come through there and see that for the first time. Most of those paintings were done by a space artist. I believe his name was Thomas Voter, and he was from what I've been told, he was somewhat of a famous space artist at the time, although probably the only space artist that I really know is Chesley Bonestell, and he was famous and made some really nice paintings. If you saw some of them, you'd probably recognize them. So, oh yeah, that painting. But he made a lot of stuff in the 50s and 60s of space rockets and views of what other planets might look like kind of during the height of the space age. And so Thomas Voter, I guess, was in that same genre, and he painted our paintings. But I know that they have been updated after Voyager flew by and we got better pictures of Jupiter and Saturn and had a better idea of what some of those planets looked like. Somebody went and repainted some of the paintings of the planets in there. I don't know who that was, but Dave Batch might know. He may have been the director at the time, or it might have been the previous director before Dave that hired that and had that done. What else? I don't know, I guess that's about all I know about the exhibits in the exhibit hall. It was about 2 years before I got here, and I got here in 2002. I think it was at least 1 or 2 years before I got here that the whole lobby was remodeled. The ceiling that's out there was put in at that time. But it was just maybe 2 or 3 years ago that the floor was put in. When I came here, the floor was still the original asbestos tiles, and the university is slowly removing asbestos from different places on the university, and I guess tiles, as long as they're not broken up and disturbed, are usually very safe because they're not shedding dust up into the. They always had a really nice coating of wax on them, so I think it was pretty good. Dave and Bob are pretty old, so they didn't seem to be affected by it. Anyway, so a couple of years ago they removed all that and put in the new floor, and the flooring guy that put that in, he was a real great guy, and he was really careful and really proud of the work he was doing, and he kind of handcrafted that whole sparkly zigzag thing that matches the ceiling curve, and so that was pretty cool to have somebody that really cared about what they were doing, and I was very proud of their work, and he put that in, and they put the stars in various places on the floor, and so we've gotten a lot of compliments about that new sparkly floor that's out there. But yeah, that was just a couple of years ago when that went in.
Are there any renovations or new exhibits planned for the future?
Well, I know that there has been some talk about possibly adding a new wing onto the building, and you know, I think at this point it's really more of just kind of in the discussion phase where they've kind of drawn up some preliminary designs and kind of estimated some costs, but now it's really just a matter of finding a funding source for that. But one of the ideas is that we would build a classroom onto the side of the building so that we can have more classes come in, and you know, if they're not in the planetarium seeing a presentation, maybe we could do some other science activities and other things, you know, with the students here. And we would also use that space for special events and some of the rentals that we have here. So that'll be nice if that ever happens, but yeah, it's still probably a number of years away.
Are there any notable special exhibits that have been on display in the past?
I've heard that at one time there was a moon rock on display here, and there was also a space suit, whether it was an Apollo space suit or what, but I've been told that that was a very popular thing that used to be on display. I guess back during the days when they used to do laser shows and things in the 70s, apparently there was a somewhat famous painting of Merlin the Magician from King Oliver, no, King Arthur. That's who it was. King Oliver, I don't know who that is. Anyway, there was some famous, somewhat locally famous painting of Merlin that was in the lobby, and then at one time it got stolen. Some college kids, you know, took it, and I think it might have ended up back here or something. But there must have been some sort of a, you know, local scandal that those college kids probably did. So who knows? But that was all before I was here. I've just heard stories and rumors about that. Since I've been here, there really haven't been a whole lot of changes as far as exhibits in the lobby. You know, we don't get a lot of traveling exhibits to put on display. I know we did a couple of years ago. We had some quilts. There was someone that, you know, that I know that was involved with a quilting organization. They had a quilt contest where the quilters did space-themed quilts, and then some of the winners or ribbon winners of the quilt thing ended up putting some of their quilts on display here in our lobby. That was kind of interesting. I'm trying to think of some other exhibits that we've had recently. We did have the Chinese meteorite exhibit for a little while. That's all that comes to mind.
And in the Blacklight Gallery, do you have any favorite paintings?
Do I have any favorite paintings in the Blacklight Gallery? Well, I mean, the one that I think, I don't know if I would say is my favorite, I mean, it's definitely a really cool one, is the Saturn at the end. You know, that's really nice because, you know, it's such a big mural down there, and people, when they're leaving the planetarium, will often stop and get their picture taken in front of it. And so that's a nice one. I like the Apollo lander on one of the first ones there, because when I bring some of the preschool groups through there, if it's a smaller group, I usually have time to talk about some of the pictures as we are walking through there, and I show them that, and I say these are some of the things that people left on the moon. As you can see the flag and you can see part of the spaceship, but there's something else that they left on the moon. Look really close, and I kind of point down near the bottom of the flagpole, and the kids finally see it and say, footprints! And so they left footprints on the moon. So that's a fun one to be able to use that to interact with the kids that come through here.
A lot of people focus on the Sky Theater and the shows that happen there as a kind of main attraction. Is this the case for you too?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that you know, the planetarium theater is really the kind of the main attraction that we have here. And one thing that's kind of nice about our planetarium is I kind of appreciate the fact that we are a standalone planetarium. You know, there's many planetariums in the U.S. and in the world, but I don't know what the percentages are, but you know, the majority of them, I would say, are probably within a science museum or in a school, in a high school or elementary school. But the ones that are in science museums, one of the things that, I wouldn't say a problem, but one of the things that makes it different than our case is that people that are visiting often want to see the entire science center, and they just have a short amount of time, and so you know if they go into the planetarium, they don't really have the really time to see that as a separate thing. Where here, it's a destination. You know, when you come to the Abrams Planetarium, you're coming to see the planetarium show on a Friday or a Saturday night, kind of like a date night or whatever. You're coming out there to see it, and so that gives us the luxury of being able to do a longer presentation. We will do the recorded show, and then that'll be followed by the Star Talk, and you don't get that at planetariums that are just a separate little ticket item within a bigger science museum. And so it's kind of nice that we have this resource here at MSU that people can come, as a destination, see the planetarium, and have a nice experience out of the whole thing.
What is it like watching the audience react during the shows?
Well, that's actually a little bit hard because it's usually dark in there, and so we don't really watch them so much. But you can definitely, sense the reaction through, hearing and seeing, maybe a few hands kind of sticking up in the dark when you're talking to the kids and asking them questions. But yeah, that's really nice when you're doing a live presentation, that you can kind of, play off of